The 2016 Royal Rumble is in the books. Triple H is your winner and new WWE champion. Welcome to this special video review of the Royal Rumble here at VinceRussoBrand.com. My name is Jeff Lane, and I am joined tonight by Mr. Zac Eisenstein, and we're going to be going through the entire Rumble. Zac, welcome. It's been a few months since you've been on here, man. How's it going?
I'm good, man. I'm happy to be back. I like being on the show with you a lot.
All right, good deal, man. Glad to have you back. I believe Night of Champions was the last time we got to do this, so I've been looking forward to this for a while. Lots of stuff to talk about on the Rumble. Now, I did not catch the pre-show, so I don't know if you did. If so, is there anything you want to go through from the pre-show?
I think I took some notes on that match. Really, they had the four-way, and I remember I wasn't going to pay much attention to it or thinking, whatever. I still have a half hour until the show really starts. And Michael Cole, I think, said something like, "This match will have a deciding factor over the Rumble" or something. So I'm like, okay, I'll watch it. And I think it was the team of Swagger and who else? Who was he with?
Mark Henry.
And Mark Henry, the guy and it was a good match. It was a good four-way match. That crowd, man, they booed a lot of people tonight, and they booed a lot of things, but they really weren't. They weren't stoked to see the Ascension. They were so stoked to see Sandow. It's amazing. It's amazing how over a guy can be, and just be, not just be, but be where he's at in the lower mid card.
Yeah, I saw a lot of people on Twitter were talking about how over he was tonight, and that's
it was crazy.
Yeah, and it's strange because, in my opinion, this was an internet-heavy crowd. You know what I mean?
They were,
and he's over with them, and he's not the typical internet darling. You know what I mean? But they love him. So you got casuals that love the guy, and the internet that loves the guy. You're right, though. I don't know why he's not on TV every single show.
I watched that match just thinking about him and how crazy it is, how the reaction that he can get out of these guys without ever asking for them to chant or leading them into a chant. We're really giving them anything. He comes out, he did a classic Sandow thing tonight. He wasn't any of the kind of versions of Sandow. He was just Damian Sandow, and everybody was stoked. And it's just crazy to think there's all these other things that they're trying to get over, that they would love to be that over with the fans. And you got Sandow just chilling there like, hey, I'm awesome, but I'll be on the pre-show, whatever.
So we had Swagger and Henry go over in that. I do like the fact that they had a match on the pre-show with stakes. The winner, it mattered. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So anything else happened on the pre-show notable?
That there was a commercial in the middle of the match for the network.
Very odd.
Come on, man. That's not really notable, but
it's like they do that in NXT also. They go to commercial during the match for stuff on the network, and I'm just convinced now that they believe that is an intelligent move, with the fact that they do that when they're not even on TV. So who knows at this point?
Must. Maybe it is. Maybe we're stupid, man. They're the billionaires.
Well, the actual pay-per-view opens up with Vince and Stephanie arriving in a limousine. JoJo does an interview. I like when they open the shows with limousines or somebody arriving to get people involved. I liked that Vince, squatted down to JoJo's height. I thought that was entertaining. And the first match was Dean Ambrose versus Kevin Owens, the last man standing, for the Intercontinental title. And Dean Ambrose ended up retaining his belt in which I thought was an entertaining match. So what were your thoughts on this overall?
Oh, I think they had a great match. Both guys showed up. That's a great thing about them, is it's almost like, how it's not they don't really have a rivalry, but everybody kind of, when Breeze moved up, everybody's kind of like, well, he should have a thing with Dolph Ziggler because they're kind of like the same guy. That's how I feel about Owens and Ambrose, but even stronger. They're not quite the same character, but both characters are just that. They're them. They're the guy that they are. They don't really give a shit about what anyone says or anyone's going to. They're going to do what they want to do. So they kind of are the same character from story-wise. So for that reason, I love watching them go up. And I love watching, you know, what did they say to each other in the middle match? I hate you. I hate you too. Or something like that. Like, that's so cool. And then on the wrestling side of it, you know, those guys are going to be hurting tomorrow. I don't think they spared any expense. So, like, I would say job well done.
Well, it was definitely a violent match. I was surprised. I don't know about you, but they did the spot where Dean threw the chair at Owens' head. Like, they don't do that stuff anymore.
And it stayed on Kevin's head. I don't know. I think I could be wrong. I felt like they didn't plan on, or Kevin didn't plan on having that on his head for so long. But he kind of, if he's thinking logically, he's like, well, if I'm going to have the power to take this chair off my head, then why don't I have the power to just beat your ass? So it's like, well, dude, you got to keep hitting me while this chair's wrapped around my neck, which made for awesome wrestling, which is not too extreme. It's not, you know, putting spikes, jamming them in people's heads with hammers, but it's like, you know, we wrapped a metal chair around this guy's neck, and it's cool. I think it's a nice medium, and yeah, it's just another reason the match ruled.
Yeah, I was just surprised because, you know, they've outlawed the head with the chair because of all the concussion lawsuits. And, you know, that was a pretty good toss by Ambrose, and I know part of it caught Owens on the head, so I was just very surprised. But
maybe they meant to have it hang on his head. Like, I don't know. It was cool.
Yeah, it was cool. And there was
the point is for me to not be sure anyway, right? That's suspension of disbelief. So
that's a good point, man. Two, which I thought very good table spots in the match. The one in the ring, where Owens kind of did like a brainbuster type, putting Dean through the table. And obviously the finish of the match. I thought the tables were used well. What are your thoughts on the finish and Ambrose retaining here?
Like you said, I think everything with the tables was cool and tasteful, and storyline wise, I think that great things are capable of being written with either of those guys retaining. I think Dean Ambrose, I'm happy with, you know, as a fan and as a mark, I'm happy that Dean won because I think he's been on the main roster longer and he deserves a spot more. And I think that it's, you know, if we were going to let Kevin Owens ride out this Intercontinental thing, then it would be Dean getting pushed aside. So for that reason, I'm happy about it. It's nothing against Kevin Owens at all. And, you know, they had a nice finish to a nice match. So,
yeah, and Dean arguably was put even in a bigger spot at the end of the show, which we'll get to
exactly.
in a bit.
And I think that's what, and either way, like I said, I don't think if we have this guy win, then we're not going to have any stories. I don't think it was that type of situation. It's just like, you know, I think they should have it was the right thing to do for Dean.
Next was New Day versus the Usos, and New Day came out at the beginning and they did their little eulogy for the trombone, and then Xavier Woods came out with the new trombone, Francesca 2, and they did a long, you know, promo to the ring. You know, had the match with the Usos. New Day retains the titles. Big E caught one of the Usos, hit his finish for the win. What did you think of the whole promo there before the match with the trombones?
I like it. I think it's, you know, it's silly, but it's what's been working for New Day. So they're, you know, nobody's straying from anything. And I think that's cool. I thought that was a really good match, man. And obviously everybody says, I guess the more that New Day's on television, the more I like them. But Big E, especially tonight, I think just looked great and is a hilarious guy to watch. I really like New Day.
My issue with the promo was I thought it went on too long, and I think this is something they've been doing with the New Day ever since they started really getting reactions with their promos. Is like, okay, you were getting a good reaction for 3 minutes, go do it for 8 minutes or whatever. But I don't think, you know, I don't think they're giving them substance. I think they're just like, go wing it for 8 minutes, and I feel like they're sometimes stretching it and it gets old. Instead of the short and sweet and meaningful, we get moments of brilliance and then a lot of just filler.
I think you're absolutely right. I think it's there's no, yeah, you're absolutely right. There's no proper way to stretch it into an 8-minute thing. In essence, it's not an 8-minute thing. This is a couple minutes, maybe a minute. Like it's like you said, short and sweet. Yeah, I agree with you 100% on the promo. But I don't think it was a bad promo. And like you said, it has its moments. But that becomes less of a thing the longer it is. So, yeah, I feel you.
I was just a little disappointed that they didn't focus on Xavier Woods that much like they normally do outside the ring during the match.
I can't even tell when they're focusing on him, I think, because I myself focus on him so hard that I don't even know if I'm supposed to be or not. I don't know if they want me to be listening to every word he's screaming, if it's just Xavier standing that close to the camera, so I listen to every word that he's screaming. I don't know, but they're awesome. I got a question for you. Do you think what about the Usos being the Slammy award-winning tag team of the year?
What do you mean, like
thing? Is that real?
Like should they? I mean, is it
like did people really vote that? Do you think?
They say that they did. Who knows?
That's like crazy to me. And it's not it's just because of who was featured and how much this year. It's nothing against them.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I just think all the Slammies are silly. You know what I mean? I don't get it. I think it ruins a Raw. I think maybe if they just did a special or something.
Yeah.
But when they announce them as the Slammy is just like a silly name now. You know what I mean? It made sense.
I'm a wrestler coming out, and the only thing we got the strongest man in the world, and we got the whatever, the Beast Incarnate, and then my thing is Slammy award winning, like fan favorite guy. I'll be like, man, you guys can't call me something like cooler, So I sound like sick, like everyone else. But
I mean, it worked. It worked when Owen Hart was doing it, and he was trying to be annoying. You know what I mean? And he was a heel, and that's all he had. But now it's like they're trying to make it as this huge deal, and I don't think the fans are buying it.
Yeah, it's not a big deal. It's just no matter how much they want it to be. Sorry, that was just something I was thinking about.
Oh, that's cool, man. Next was we had a Wyatt family promo, and they kind of they said they named off the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, each one of them. Nothing special in my opinion. It was just a normal Bray Wyatt and Wyatt family promo. The one thing I noticed though was like we didn't really get a lot of story tonight. Story in the back, skits in the back, scenes, interviews. It was just, I mean, we had this and we had another one with Paul Heyman and Stephanie, and I think that was it. But that's
good, and I think that's bad too. But I mostly think it's good, to be honest with you. In the context of this, where we're at right now in the storyline and this Royal Rumble and stuff, I'm glad. I agree with you, but I think they needed to just stop talking and do tonight, which I think they did. I think it was a pretty great pay-per-view overall. We haven't really said that. I do, for what it's worth. I think it was good. So I feel you, but I'm kind of happy about it, to be honest. There was not a lot of – I felt like a lot of fat was trimmed off this pay-per-view.
Kalisto versus Alberto Del Rio. This is the rubber match.
Yeah, this match was sweet. I love watching these two wrestle each other.
I'm going to tell. And I knew we were going to have a disagreement on this one, which is absolutely cool. Absolutely cool. Obviously, nobody's going to agree on everything. I'm going to give you my take. I'm going to tell you why I didn't like it, and then I want you to tell me why you did.
Okay.
But this is my deal, and it's nothing against Kalisto. I just like when I see these guys. Like, I don't have problems with the small guys wrestling, but I enjoyed them in WCW because they had their own division. It was a cruiserweight division. They weren't beating heavyweights. They weren't being equal with these large guys. But to me, when I see somebody the size of Kalisto beat somebody like Alberto Del Rio, I just have a hard time suspending my disbelief for that, just based off of the size difference. Right or wrong, that's just the way I look at it. I like the guys. I liked when they had their own division, but now I feel like that all these guys are just thrown in as heavyweights with all the larger guys, and that's when the business started moving into smaller guys in the ring, and we really don't have that many Brock Lesnar's and larger-than-life people anymore.
So would you rather see Kalisto go with someone smaller than,
yes.
I guess, right?
Yes.
I understand. That's just not an important thing to me. I don't. I guess. I don't know if I never thought it was weird watching Rey Mysterio take out anyone he did, or I get what you mean. I just always thought that was like a kind of like an old school wrestling bubble mentality of like, this guy could never beat this guy, but it's like, well, Kalisto can do all these crazy flips and stuff that the big guy can't do. So I think that's my justification in that department. You know, there's the small man can do all, hey, he's evasive, and he does. A lot of smaller guys normally reverse everything more so than big guys. And but I thought they had an awesome match. I love watching them together. You know what I really think it is? I missed seeing matches like that in WWE, because Alberto Del Rio and Kalisto, it's like they both wrestle like WCW cruiserweight. They do. And maybe not exactly, but it comparatively to the rest of the locker room, it's kind of like those matches make me feel like a little like I'm watching that stuff. And I got the vibe as soon as they started working together. I remember thinking to myself, well, Alberto Del Rio probably thinks that Kalisto is awesome. And when he came back, like my own little theory in my brain is that like he backstage is like, hey, come on, let me work with Kalisto, and he's my boy, and let me drop the belt to him, and all this stuff. And I imagine Vince McMahon being like, oh, that's not what I pictured for the title, but fuck it, go for it. And I don't know. That's my scenario in my brain and how I like to imagine it. So I'm like happy for them, because it's like, Kalisto, you just can't help but feel like that wasn't the powers that be's idea. So you're happy for Kalisto, and fans seem to like it's refreshing. When he got the title, I remember I'm looking at my TV, I was just like, shit, that rules. Like, I didn't think that was going to happen at all. So I don't know. I just like it for those reasons.
Yeah, I mean, when he did win the night on Raw, it was unpredictable. I don't know if anybody thought, he was going to win that match. I want to ask you about Alberto Del Rio. I just feel like they have completely stripped him of any character. You know what I mean? You look at how he was when he was there the first time, and his whole gimmick, and now I just feel like he's just a guy that wrestles. You know what I mean?
Yeah. He used to have, what was his name? The ring announcer, Ricardo Rodriguez.
Yeah.
Yeah, he had the car. He had quite a gimmick. Yeah,
the car. And it's just like I feel like a lot of these guys, they just go to the ring and wrestle now. Yeah.
I mean, I can say I agree with you, but I think you can say the same thing about, like you said, about a lot of the roster. It's not really specific to him. And I've watched so many, just watching Alberto in different promotions, watching shoot interviews with him. I just have such a kind of respect for him. I think he's a real badass. So I kind of give him a pass in my brain, but it's the same, what is Jack Swagger? How is he even like American guy anymore, really? Besides that he says we the people. He's just like has a flag behind him when he walks out. Everybody's kind of like watered down once, and it could be argued that that's a good thing, because a lot of big wrestlers, you say you start off with this clean cut gimmick, if you will, and then it kind of you shed it and just become yourself. So I guess that can happen in a good way or a kind of way.
Yeah. I just think that's one of the main reasons why a lot of the casual fans are having difficulties connecting with the product, is because there's not really a lot of individuality with each character. You know what I mean? There's nobody they can identify with, or
well, if I'm a new viewer watching tonight, how am I supposed to pick the guy that I think's cool but all I have to go off is his looks?
Yep.
I don't have anything else. So yeah.
All right. Next was Paul Heyman talking to Stephanie about Brock Lesnar renegotiating his contract after he wins the title tonight or eliminates Roman Reigns. And Stephanie says when he does that, she'll be happy to renegotiate his contract. Any thoughts on that? Anything?
I like that. I think those two are great at talking to each other. I have all these like weird theories when I watch the show. I think that she called I think that she accidentally called Paul Brock, and then she changed what she was going to say around to like cover it. Like I think she went Brock, Lesnar, Will, something like that. When she wanted to be like Paul, that's the only thing I really remember. There was nothing like awkward, and you know, Stephanie's great at talking. In my opinion, and Paul Heyman is Paul Heyman. So it's kind of like I forget which one of your shows Vince was saying it on, but I think only last week was he saying that it's becoming kind of repetitive with Paul Heyman.
Yeah, that he says the same things all the time. You know.
Yeah, I never felt that way before. It wasn't bothering me. Now that Vince has said it, I was watching tonight like, yeah. I don't know if that's anyone's fault. Not really complaining about it. I just notice it now since Vince said that.
Yeah, you know, I think they could have done a lot more with this. I mean, Vince McMahon laid down. This has been the story going into the Rumble. He wants the other. It's one versus all, so he wants the other entrants to eliminate Roman Reigns. I think they could have done something tonight where people kept going in, talking to Stephanie or Vince. If I eliminate Roman, can I have this? If I eliminate Roman, you know what I mean? It built a whole bunch of stuff around that, but
that would have been great. But I mean, there's always a million things they could have done. Everything they do, I'm sure you have a bunch of good ideas.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. I mean, there's always, and that's the thing with like the thing that they did is one out of infinite possibilities. So
yeah.
You know, but I'm just always a proponent of the more story that before the match gives people more reason to care who wins the match. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I think tonight's a lot of the draw to this Rumble, it was debut heavy. People cared a lot about who was going to debut. And really, it ended up just being AJ, right?
Yeah.
Because people were talking about, oh, these New Japan guys, Bullet Club's going to be there, and all these other people. It really just ended up being AJ Styles, who I thought was awesome. But, it was like, to me, this whole Royal Rumble wasn't very intriguing for a while because as soon as they said it was going to be Roman Reigns on everyone, and then I'm like, well, that means Roman Reigns is going to win because I've been watching wrestling my whole life, and thanks for spoiling it. But only a few days ago, it started to really hit me that, you know, this Triple H thing could be a possibility. So then the past 48 hours for me have been, so either Roman Reigns is going to win or Triple H is going to win. And, so there wasn't that much of like an open-ended. My point is I like a surprise when possible, and it wasn't the most surprising like outcome, but it was cool. It was a good journey along the way, even if the destination was like whatever, you know?
Yeah, and especially like, you know, they kind of – a lot of the times with the Royal Rumble, there's always two huge draws for the event. There's the Royal Rumble match, and then there's whatever the heavyweight championship match is. So now by throwing them together, which was probably a necessity with all the injuries and lack of star power, and I'm sure that's why they did it, but they kind of threw all their eggs in one basket with this. So, you know, I think that kind of maybe lessened the appeal for the event, but the fact that I think this was way less predictable than last year. I know a lot of people picked Triple H, but that wasn't a guarantee. A lot of people thought Roman Reigns was going to hold on to it. A lot of people thought Brock Lesnar was going to win. So, you know, last year you pretty much knew Roman Reigns was going to be the one that won. Yeah. And this year I thought it was a lot less predictable.
That's what I'm saying. It wasn't ideal as far as like not being predictable goes, but it wasn't the most predictable thing in the world. I thought I would say my second choice of probability was that Triple H would win, and I thought primarily that Roman would win. So I guess I got swerved a little bit. It's like all I can ask for.
Yeah, I mean, I thought they may be setting up a Bray win with the way they went off Raw, because a lot of times they are predictable like that, and they made Bray look. I mean, we went off the air on Monday night with Bray Wyatt looking like the strongest guy on the roster. So to me, I thought maybe they're telegraphing a Bray win here. So that didn't happen. I didn't, you know what I mean? As long as I can't say this is who's going to win, we all know who's going to win. Every fan knows this is who's going to win, and then they win. If that doesn't happen, normally that's a good thing.
Yeah, you're right. I agree.
All right, we are going to take a quick 30 seconds to look at the VIP features of VinceRussoBrand.com. When we come back, we'll be looking at the Charlotte versus Becky Lynch match and the Royal Rumble.
Visit VinceRussoBrand.com to sign up for exclusive VIP content. You get over 20 new video shows monthly, including Vixens Who Rule and The Swerve, where Vince Russo interviews stars in wrestling and beyond. Listen to Vince and Jeff Lane discuss weekly news and rumors and review Attitude Era Raws. Also, watch the cult hit Bucket Full of Chicken next. Go to VinceRussoBrand.com and click the red subscribe button to join now.
Welcome back. Jeff Lane here with Zac Eisenstein. Zach, Divas title match, Charlotte defending against Becky Lynch. Before we get into the match, I thought the video package they played before the match was phenomenal. I know they've shown this a few times on the commercials and stuff like that, but this used to be a staple, I think, of pay-per-views where there was always that video before the match recapping the events that led to the match. I don't feel like we got a lot of that tonight, but I thought this one was very well done.
Yeah, man, I agree. I was thinking the same thing. I didn't realize quite that it used how. I mean, I agree now that you're saying it. I wasn't thinking about how it used to be a staple. It definitely was. When I was watching Becky Lynch cut the promos in the video before the match, I'm just thinking like, reminded me of Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart going back and forth talking in those vignettes and all the pay-per-views. I think just because I watched those like last week or something, but that was those times, you know, the 90s, like you're saying, they always had that stuff. Unless it was like Undertaker or some weird character, maybe it would be a little different. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. I was thinking of that I was enjoying it while I was watching it. I was thinking, you know, this is how you set up a match and make someone care about it. And then I think they had a pretty awesome match, which is the same thing. I couldn't really predict that match.
Yeah, I want your thoughts on the finish. Charlotte retained the title. Ric Flair threw a jacket onto Becky's head to break up the submission, and Charlotte ended up getting the win. There was two big Ric Flair spots in the match. There was that one, and that was where he laid the smooch on Becky Lynch. So what did you think of Ric's involvement in this match?
I went, dude, when he kissed Becky Lynch, I was like, oh, what? Oh, my God. Super. I mean, I thought it was cool. I'm not complaining. I knew Ric Flair was going to be involved in the match pretty heavily. I knew he was going to be involved in the finish. I didn't think he would kiss Becky Lynch, so that rules, you could say. You know, in that regard, as far as Flair's involvement, it wasn't really anything that I didn't expect. But I think it was a nice Ric Flair. The element he's bringing to this rivalry is real old school, like heel stuff, not like new school heel stuff at all. Whether it's in the middle of the match or the finish or anything, and that's cool. And that's continued to happen tonight. So you know,
yeah. At the beginning of the match, I'm watching it, and I'm thinking to myself, you know, they're doing an NXT match right now, and whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, obviously that's subjective, whatever people think. But watching the match, I felt like it was an NXT style match. The way, you know, they were doing, you know, the hip tosses, they do those a lot, and in the reverse into the arm bars, stuff like that. It felt very NXT like. I know a lot of people like that stuff, but then like when they roll out of the ring and Rick lands the kiss on Becky, then I'm like, okay, this is where we get the entertainment involved. So I thought that was a good mix of the in-ring style with entertainment. We had after Charlotte wins, she starts, you know, whipping on Becky, which I thought was a good touch. But then Sasha Banks comes out, and you know, she knocks Becky out of the ring, okay? And then, you know, it looks like she's joining Charlotte. They're going to be buddies or whatever. Charlotte turns around, and Sasha nails her. So I thought the crowd dug it, obviously. I felt like this crowd, and we're going to get more of this into the Rumble, I just felt like they were the typical big pay-per-view internet crowd. This is the stuff they like. You know, the people they booed and they cheered, you could tell. So obviously Sasha gets a huge pop. But, man, you know what I'm thinking? I'm like, the match ends. A next person comes out, beats him up. Now there's your match. Dude, this is like WWE 2K16 booking. You know what I mean? Like you win your match, all of a sudden someone comes out to the stage, beats you up, and now you're in a feud. So I would like to see maybe Sasha cut a promo afterwards, explain why she just did what she did. Obviously, it's to win the title, but add something personal into the mix.
You want to see them touch on it tomorrow night. Basically,
right,
tonight when people are listening to this or watching.
Right, if that's what they do, I've put my faith in the follow up sometimes too much that we get burned on that.
Yeah.
But what did you think of this whole deal with Sasha? How do you think Becky made out in this? And
not well, which is my only problem with it. I don't think I could be wrong. But their first impression as a viewer and a fan of Becky Lynch watching is like, oh man, she just got shoved out of the picture.
Especially this is what's weird to me, and obviously,
she didn't win the match, and then she gets beat up, and then Sasha beats up the person who beat her. Where does that leave? That pushes you in this situation, you being Becky, to like not important.
Right. She needs to get some type of turnaround tomorrow night. To protect her and build her back up.
And it can't just be a new thing. I pray they don't just give her a whole new deal. Like there's some other diva tomorrow night talking about something, and then Becky Lynch comes out like, oh no, you didn't. I don't have anyone to feud with now.
Right.
I'm gonna talk. Like I really hope they don't do that.
Right, because realistically, this story should not be over. Like you just said, is Becky just going to go home and be like, okay, so what's next now? I'm done with
exactly.
No.
But 3-way Divas Championship, that would be cool.
I think they kind of have to make it a 3-way, and this is why. Sasha could have easily turned babyface tonight, easily. The crowd wanted it, you know what I mean? It would have played out well. Depending how they would have had to replay the whole thing tomorrow night for the 60, the 2/3 of the Raw audience that doesn't watch the pay-per-views if the network numbers are accurate. You can always play that stuff out well with the replays. I think that she could have turned babyface, but now she attacked Becky. She did the heel thing. So now it's like you got heel Sasha and heel Charlotte. I know it's not 1980. You can do heels versus heels, but I always think the crowd really loses some type of interest because they don't know who they want to win. You know what I mean? They don't connect with one side or the other. So I think they kind of have to do a 3-way with Becky to leave a baby face in the mix. What do you think about that?
I agree. And it's not even a wrestling thing. When you're talking about, obviously you can do heels and heels, and it's not the 80s, whatever, but you write stuff. What do you think about the key elements of writing the fundamental elements of writing a good story? You have a protagonist and you have an antagonist, or you have the problem, or whatever it is, bad guy. And working within the confines of that system allows you to write better things, or to get more captivating things. Sure, it's doable with a heel and a heel, or a bad guy and a bad guy, but that's tougher. So I think it's important what you're saying. I don't think it doesn't matter. I think they should do a 3-way. I think those three going at it in some sort of triple threat match for the championship would be cool.
Yeah, that just based off tonight's events, that's the route I would go for the next pay-per-view. Fastlane, I'd make it a triple threat.
Yeah. Hopefully it's a no-brainer.
Yeah. I just want to see these girls. We can say this for a lot of the storylines going on, but I think Sasha is so great in character. She's good at getting her character over in the match. She wrestles like her gimmick. You know what I mean? A lot of people don't do that today, and I think it's kind of a lost art, and I think she's absolutely great at it. And I think she's good on the mic. She's just very good at her character. So I hope we see some of that come out, and they let her talk, and they let the audience start to learn who Becky Lynch is, instead of just this red-haired girl that wrestles, because that's pretty much what she is right now. They're doing a good job giving Charlotte character right now. I think if they can get Becky character and let Sasha do her thing, it might be a compelling storyline going into the pay-per-view.
Yeah, I agree. But the most important thing for me about the whole thing is this needs to be a time that we take to gain all the sympathy we can for Becky and build a tremendous baby face out of this situation instead of, like I said, worst thing could be tomorrow or tonight or tomorrow night, whatever you want to say, on Raw. A new feud is introduced with someone who wasn't even involved, and that's what we don't. If that doesn't happen, then I'll be okay with everything.
All right, so the Royal Rumble match. Obviously, we knew Roman Reigns was number one. We didn't know who was number two. It ended up being Rusev, which I think they did as a nod to last year. They were the final two. But I'm watching this, and I'm watching Rusev come out, and all I'm thinking is, man, how far has this guy's popularity fallen in a year? You know what I mean? You look at where he was positioned last year at the Rumble, and you look at where he is now. They have ruined this guy in a year. You know what I mean? I think it's going to be hard to build him up to be that monster again.
He's the only. First of all, I'm a huge fan of his. He's one of my favorite guys on the roster. I just think his character is cool. I think he's funny. I think he's great at talking, and he's believable. But he's the only member of the League of Nations that I would dare say he didn't need it. It might be having a negative effect. These are things I was already thinking, like, he seems softer, you know what I mean? When he's around those guys, he's go team, and look at us, we're the league. Rusev used to be like, I don't give a shit about my girl and me, and that's it. You know what I mean? Nothing else. And now he's, part of him and his buddies. It's kind of tarnishing the Rusev thing for me. But so I know what you mean, and I'm a really big fan of it. Sucks to say. It's not like he sucks now, but yeah, it's not his fault. It's not the guy's fault, but it's somebody's fault.
Yep. So the big news for the Rumble, because there wasn't any, legends or anything. You know what I mean? The guy's returning, and one of the rumors going around today was that the reason why they didn't do it this year is because the title's on the line, and it wouldn't make logical sense that one of these legends would come in and get a title shot. So whether that's true or not, I don't know, but I actually agree that makes sense.
Yeah, I was that makes like a lot of sense. So it has to be true.
But AJ Styles makes his debut. Now he got, in my opinion, a huge pop, and this is something that Vince and I have been talking about. We both thought he probably would get a good reaction. It's in Orlando. TNA was there for years. He was on top of TNA. Most likely these fans knew who he was. And by the reactions all night, Tyler Breeze got a huge pop. Sami Zayn got a huge pop. They booed Roman Reigns. They booed Ryback.
That internet crowd, man.
Yeah.
They knew who AJ Styles. They
right.
Them well.
Right. So our concern has been, okay, how is this going to translate to the entire 3.5 million audience? Are they going to know who AJ Styles was? So I made the remarks on Twitter that I don't think the majority of them are going to know who he is. And you would think that I would have just joined ISIS by the reaction I got from people. Like, it was the worst thing I could have ever said in my life. Okay, I'm just making an educated guess. You look at a lot of the WWE fan base, and I'm not talking about the crowds like we had tonight, like we have in Philly, like we have in Chicago. I'm talking about the normal Raws where there's mom, dad, two little kids. You know what I mean? Those are the people I'm thinking of that probably have never heard of TNA and most likely do not know who AJ Styles is. Right. I hope I'm wrong. You know what I mean? That's just my opinion on the deal. So what are your thoughts on that? Do you think, should they have debuted him with vignettes to introduce him to a lot of the crowd? Or do you think that he's going to come across well and that people are going to know who he is right off the bat?
Well, first of all, I think you're right. I don't think little kids, to put it simply, knew who he was. But that being said, the way maybe if they didn't have that internet crowd tonight, this wouldn't have been a good way. But with that crowd, I think this will be a fine debut. Because if I don't know who AJ Styles is, and I'm watching the Royal Rumble tonight, and I don't know, I'm one of these fans, I don't know what the internet wrestling community is. I don't know, any of that. Well, then I would have felt like a loser for not knowing who this guy is, because everybody went crazy when he came out. So I'm like, well, and you got Cole saying he's a champion of the business, 20 years. And I'm watching people go, AJ Styles, when he's already been out there for a few minutes. So that's making an impression on me, the mainstream fan, that this guy's legit. So for that reason, I think it was fine. If they would have done this in front of that regular Raw crowd, like you're saying, then I probably wouldn't be saying the same thing. But in front of that crowd, it's okay, I think, because that crowd, he showed it's like they told the rest of the world, oh, this guy, he's cool,
Yeah, and somebody, I think it was brand member Ryan, said the same thing to me on Twitter, that even if they didn't know who they were, the crowd reaction will build that, just like you just said.
Yep.
My only thing is, I think they need to replay that then tomorrow on Raw, because there's going to be a lot of people watching Raw that didn't watch the Rumble. So if you want to give those people the same impression, show that. Show Roman Reigns' face like they did. He was confused. He didn't know the music, which I thought was good.
No, Roman Reigns didn't. He was confused by the music, but he didn't. He wasn't making a face like, "Oh, look at this. Who's this chump?" He was making a face like, "Oh, shit."
Right. Yeah, I thought that was well done.
It was, it went down. It was cool. I think you got the feeling that he was a big deal.
Let's go, before we continue on, let's stick with AJ Styles for a minute. I want to know your thoughts on his whole performance in the match. Some people, that they think of AJ Styles as, one of the best TNA guys of all time, Ring of Honor, New Japan, all this stuff. They know who AJ Styles is. They were disappointed that he got eliminated so early. I thought that they did him justice. I thought he got a lot of offense in. When he was getting beat up, it was by big name guys, and I don't think he was hurt any by his elimination. That's just my opinion. What did you think about his overall booking in the match?
Same thing. I think he had justice. What was he in, like 7 minutes at least, right? Something like that. 6
It was 28, dude. He was in 28 minutes.
Man. Yeah, because I remember being like, dude, he's still there. He's still there. Yeah, he's immediately doing all AJ style, sweet like spinning back fist stuff. He got to do a lot of his cool offensive stuff. He got to do a lot of the style of wrestling that you don't see in WWE. And I remember thinking, I thought it was gonna be a bummer if he was in and out, but he wasn't in and out, and he didn't get stomped on the whole time, and he was protected, you could say, for a new guy pretty well. He went in there and he held his own. I don't think, especially your first night in the company, sorry, no matter who you are, that's good. You should be happy with that. If it's your first night in WWE, the chicken suit expression. Even if you're AJ Styles, if they want you to put on a chicken suit, you're gonna put on a chicken suit. So he should be happy, I think. Not that hasn't earned some sort of something, but he should be happy, and his fans should be happy. It's like Kevin Owens coming on Raw and beating Cena. It's like you go, like, what was it, 28 minutes?
Yeah, AJ was in the match. I think they said 28 minutes. Yeah,
at your debut. Like, it's not a really bad way of cutting that,
So we'll see how this plays out. A lot of people's concerns are, is he going to be portrayed as the career that he's had, or is he just going to be another guy in the roster? I guess we'll see, man.
I guess we'll see, but I have hopes that I could be wrong. I have hopes that they're going to do justice to his career. By the way, they were talking about him tonight. It sounds like they would and will, but the thing is, no matter what they say, the way he's booked and his wins and losses can ruin anything anyone says, no matter how great things they say about him, so.
I mean, that's absolutely true, because you look at the pop the Dudley Boys got when they returned, and you look at them now, they're just another team on the roster.
Yeah, it's all it takes is losing one too many times to the wrong guy, and it really doesn't matter. We can say the sun shines out of your ass, and it does, It doesn't matter.
I thought they made an effort to make Braun Strowman look like a monster by having him eliminate Kane in the Big Show. The Big Show elimination was kind of sloppy. I felt like there was a lot of sloppy rope spots tonight. Like they weren't clean, and there was a lot of, like they stumbled or they got tied up in the ropes, and it took away from the drama. And I thought the Big Show's elimination was one of them. There's a lot of rumors, who knows what these rumors that they're building towards a Strowman and Brock match. They obviously went out of their way to try to make him look strong tonight. Did you get that impression?
Yeah, and I don't know what they're building towards, or I don't know what I would prefer they build towards, but I have felt since the beginning that they want to groom Strowman into something that down the road is a Big Show or is a Kane. I don't think it could, or I'm confused on how it would happen as a part of a group like the Wyatt brothers, but because I feel like all those guys were solo guys, but like Kane and any of these big monster like Undertaker type characters. But I think or probably Vince McMahon, I bet, looks at Braun and is like, oh, this is the next dude like that, so we got to start booking him as such, which is fine. He's huge, got no problem with it. He's scary as hell looking. I mean, it's cool. I just don't see how that'll ever work when he's a member of a faction that he's not even the leader of. Yeah,
that's the thing. That was my question, is if it's true and they do go through with the
what's Bray doing? Okay, exactly. You're my little peon servant, and so you go fight Brock Lesnar, and I'll just stay home. What is it? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that was exactly my concern, because you would think the appeal would be for Bray to fight.
Yeah,
Brock. But who knows? Maybe we'll get Bray and Brock at WrestleMania, because most likely we're getting Triple H and Roman for the title, and we'll get into that in a minute. Were you surprised to see Sami Zayn?
I would have been, but the stupid internet, man. So I just saw hours before Rumble, I saw on Twitter that he appeared at a house show, or NXT house show. And I was like, oh, he'll be in the Rumble. I didn't even think of that. And then the Rumble started, and I was ready for it. But if I hadn't seen that freaking tweet, it would have surprised me.
Yeah, I thought if they were going to put an NXT guy in there for whatever reason, that was the right choice, because he did have a memorable match with Cena on Raw, and a lot of the casual fans would remember that, you know what I mean? Yeah. Instead of Finn Balor, who only the NXT audience would know who Finn Balor is at this point. Yeah. So, what did you think of the way that Brock Lesnar was eliminated? Because it was pretty much the guys that already got eliminated, all the Wyatt family guys went back in the ring. I just have an issue with that being okay and legal. You know what I mean? Why wouldn't that go on the whole time?
Curtis Axel thing,
Yeah.
He's never eliminated. It's fun. Curtis Axel was never eliminated. We go all year. If Brock's never, if these guys are never really, or already eliminated, I'm sorry, and then eliminate someone like Brock Lesnar, that's important and kind of a big deal.
Yeah, and if that's legal and that's allowed, why wouldn't Vince had the League of Nations do that to Roman instead of pulling him out of the ring and just beating him up? Why wouldn't everybody just go eliminate Roman now and let's get out of here?
It makes you wonder. It makes you wonder, because my first instinct when I think about it is that now they're starting to be a little lazy with the way they tell Brock's story. But if that's the case, where's that energy going to? What was it for? What were they doing instead? Do you know what I mean?
Right.
I agree with. I guess I'm saying, I agree with you entirely. I think he's too important of a character to have any kind of holes in what happens to him at all.
Well, you're right, and that's probably why they did it that way. They're thinking, okay, this is our monster. This is our number one believable guy. We can't drop that down by how he's eliminated. We have to make, the way he's eliminated, it just has to be a whole force against him. I just feel like, wouldn't have made more sense if it was a bunch of guys that were legally in the match, so we didn't have this nonsense, you know what I mean? But I just feel like it's kind of one of those things.
Hard, right? I know what you're saying. It wouldn't have been a big deal. Get all the 6 guys, go do the old thing where they all lift them over and Yeah.
Yeah, I just feel like it's one of those moments where like, it's just wrestling. Who cares if it makes sense or not? You know what I mean? And
Yeah, but it's a Royal Rumble, man.
yeah.
You know?
Okay, so Triple H comes out at number 30. A lot of people predicted this.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know if, you know, this could have been a surprise to a lot of casual people. They may have not known the rumors and known this was coming.
Definitely.
So being at number 30, I thought that was a good spot. So what's your thoughts overall? Triple H in the match, number 30, and the final two being himself and Dean Ambrose.
Well, I was one of the people who was banking on Triple H winning. So I was, by the time the number 30 rolled around, I knew it was going to be him, but I thought it was going to come down to Triple H and Roman Reigns. I don't know. I just didn't think they would go more outside the box than that. And so it was pretty cool when Roman got eliminated. It's nothing against Roman, but I was like, I think I said like yes or something. And then I'm thinking to myself, why did I say yes? It was because something happened and I didn't think it was going to happen. So I was like, oh, cool, like this rules. And for a second, I really, really hoped that Dean would win because that would just turn everything upside down. But then I realized that he's the Intercontinental champ. So it's like, what's he going to have, 2 belts? It's kind of doubtful when Triple H is standing there right there, number 30, not gassed out at all. You know what I mean? Just like ready to whoop some ass. So it wasn't the most surprising thing in the world, but I think it was badass. It was cool.
Yeah, well, I agree with you. I thought that eliminating Roman when they did, there was enough people still in there where it kind of built anticipation. Like, we're going to have a new champion. You know what I mean? The champion's gone. We're going to have a new champion. There were still 6 or 7 guys in there. So then you start, holy cow, which one of these guys is going to win the belt? Instead of Roman being one of the last 2, if you're going to change the belt, I thought they did it the right way to build that anticipation. You know, they did put Dean Ambrose in a big spot there, but also when it was down to those 2, you knew who was going to win. You know what I mean?
Cool too, because it's something that you're going to hopefully a year from now, maybe there's something going on where Dean Ambrose is in the heavyweight title picture, and all these little moments with Dean Ambrose it's foreshadowing, it's teasing us. It's almost like the company saying to the fans, well, we're not going to do this, but would you like it if we did this? Just so they can like gauge. And the fact that I think things like that are happening more and more with Dean is good for him and good for his fans.
So what are your thoughts on Triple H coming back and now he's the company's champion?
I think it's pretty awesome. And just because for story purposes, the whole idea of the Authority was starting to get a little stale to me. But if you give Triple H himself the belt, not Seth, not Sheamus, that's a way to make it new. What I think they should do really, man, is I think the Authority should be a babyface like entity, like it was like in the early 90s and stuff, just because that would be so refreshing now. But this is like, if they're going to not do that, then this is pretty different, like making the champion the actual, you know, the COO or whatever he is.
Yeah, you know, it's like we kind of get into these things where I start to sound hypocritical to myself, like, because I'm always about we need to build new stars, we need to build for the future. But at the same time, I understand why they did this, and I kind of agree with it, because right now, it's January. They have to sell WrestleMania. And you look at everybody that's injured, okay? So they kind of have to do what they have to do to get people interested in the event. And if putting the belt on Triple H and having Triple H in the main event is the way to do it, then they need to do it and start correcting their mistakes after WrestleMania, because right now they have to sell that event. So I understand why they did this.
Yeah, me too. I agree with you 100%.
So I would think it'd be safe to say, you know, I don't know what they're going to do at Fastlane. I'm sure they want to make that an important event. But taking that out of the picture, I would assume we're going to have Triple H and Roman at WrestleMania. Did you see any other possible angles or feuds built up tonight that you think could be leading to WrestleMania out of what happened at the Rumble?
Honestly, man, not really. No, I was looking for it. You know, nothing that'd be born of tonight. Like I see things with Sasha and Becky and Charlotte could maybe go that long. I see tons of things that could continue to be a thing when WrestleMania happens. But I didn't see like the birth of anything, I don't think. Yeah, I mean, if I did, I didn't notice.
Did you I kind of got a feeling they were trying to start a Jericho and Ambrose thing. Like, did you get that vibe at all with the way they were going in the Rumble? And
I don't know.
And Ambrose
eliminated them. Other people, or I don't know. Why? What? Why? Like the way
I don't know. Maybe I'm just reading too much into it. I felt like they made it a big deal.
Doesn't mean you are. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think if that's done right, and if Jericho stops trying to be the funny guy and starts being a true heel here to put Dean Ambrose over at WrestleMania, I think that could actually be compelling, and I think that could be good for Dean Ambrose at this point. I don't think Jericho needs to be beating Dean Ambrose at WrestleMania, but I think he could do a great job at making Dean Ambrose in that match.
Yeah, I think that could be great. I think he could be an awesome person for Dean to work with, and I think that Dean's personality could rub off, like you were saying, on Jericho right now in probably a way that would help Jericho. I think maybe it's just me. His whole thing right now doesn't really do it for me with the jokes and the screaming on the microphone like he's Axl Rose. We get it. You're in a rock band. You can, hello, Cleveland. Like, you know how to do that. That's great.
Yeah, I definitely can't do that.
Yeah.
If you had to guess AJ Styles' first feud, who's it going to be with?
That would be cool with Jericho. But I don't know. If I had to guess, Now, are you asking who I think would be cool, or who do I think the company? What do I really think they're going to do?
What do you think they're going? What do you think? Well, both. Go ahead and go with both.
What would be cool would be I imagine him and Dolph Ziggler would have awesome matches that I would really, really like watching. That might be something they do. What they'll probably do is put him with. I think they'll probably automatically either stick him in. They'll probably automatically stick him in the U.S. title picture. I would hope. Maybe that's another thing. Maybe, I mean, if Kevin Owens went straight to the IC title picture, right? I feel like he's worthy of that if Kevin Owens was. These are things I think would be justice. I don't know, honestly, what they'll do.
I think it's going to be Owens. I think he's going to feud with Owens.
Somewhere in that U.S. title, Intercontinental title world. I think AJ deserves to shoot right there.
Yeah, I felt like they made it a point when Owens hit the ring is that he went right after AJ. You know what I mean? And they, if I'm remembering, didn't he go right at AJ and they had that, punching back and forth? I feel that's if Sami Zayn doesn't stay on the main roster because he did that with Sami as well. But I don't know. That would be my guess. I think.
Well, that's what. Okay, here we go. I got it. He should go right to the IC or US title picture. It's nothing against Dolph Ziggler, but I'm afraid that they'll just stick him with someone like that for some sort of stupid feud.
Yeah,
that's what I'm afraid of.
Yeah,
I nothing against any of these guys that are at that level. I don't think they deserve it either. I don't think anyone does.
That's true. I just hope they realize the actual talent that they now have on the roster and they use him to the best of the ability to help build the product. I know he's 39 years old or whatever. I get that. But he's fresh in the eyes of WWE fans. You know what I mean? So it's not like we're seeing a legend come back and doing it all over. This is the really the first time for AJ and WWE, and I think they can really do big things if they do it correctly with him.
Yeah, for sure.
Any final thoughts, man, or anything I missed on the Royal Rumble?
No, it was a good pay-per-view. I wish I had more stuff, like interesting things to say, but that normally with me happens when I'm really upset by stuff. And I thought it was a good pay-per-view. Yeah,
I was entertained watching it.
I want to come on here when I hate something. I've yet to watch it. I mean, I've seen a lot of stuff I thought is stupid, but I never come on your show afterwards. I gotta because I'm always just like saying everything was cool, but it was good night again.
Yeah, dude, anytime, man. If you're like, man, Ross sucked tonight, let's do a show on it. All right, let's do it. So before we go off the air here, why don't you tell everybody what are you up to these days? Anything cool coming up in your near future here for people to check out?
Yeah, in the springtime, my band will be going on tour in America, all over the country. I got the exact dates today, so we'll probably announce them in a couple days. But Man Overboard, twitter.com/manoverboardnj, and I'm working on some stuff that I want to get done this fall or this summer involving wrestling that I don't want to give too many details on yet, but I'm trying to get some cool stuff together right now in the world of wrestling that will definitely get announced here first when it's all said and done.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to that. Can't wait to hear that stuff. And so the tour, you said the dates. Will the dates be put up on the Defend Pop Punk website? Yeah.
They'll be on defendpoppunk.com or manoverboardnj.com. It takes you to the same place. It's going to be, we're going to do some East Coast shows. We're going to fly, do some mill shows and fly and do some West Coast shows. And I think it's going to be the middle and later part of April.
Good deal, man. All right, Brand. So make sure you check out Zach, check out his website, follow him on Twitter. But we thank you for joining us here tonight. And Zach, as we discussed earlier, you're welcome anytime to come on these shows.
Thanks,
Brand, absolutely. Brand, thanks for tuning in. We will see you. Let's see what's coming up next. Trying to get my schedule. Vixens will be on Monday and a brand new Raw What It Was Good For on Tuesday. Until then, have a good night, everybody.
Visit VinceRussoBrand.com to sign up for exclusive VIP content. You get over 20 new video shows monthly, including Vixens Who Rule and The Swerve, where Vince Russo interviews stars in wrestling and beyond. Listen to Vince and Jeff Lane discuss weekly news and rumor and review Attitude Era Raws. Also, watch the cult hit Bucket Full of Chicken next. Go to VinceRussoBrand.com and click the red subscribe button to join now.